What's up, troopers? We are here for another episode of Notorious Scoundrels. We have Mike Baer here. How you doing, Mike?
Yo, I'm good. I haven't been lambasted since last episode, so
the comments were very positive.
I'm in the clear. We're the first transport is away.
Yeah, it's a little bit dangerous because it's going to mean that you start to think that you can get away with whatever. But I'm sure it won't be long. Maybe
didn't. I feel like that ship sailed like 4 years ago.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, to help us on the journey in the opposite direction of positivity, we do have another guest here. We have the famous enemy of the podcast, Brian Baer. We dragged him from the pits of Tartarus to come and regale us with Legion knowledge once again. So welcome, Brian. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Listen, Mike and I had a very heartfelt episode, and Mike talked about his feelings on Jedi. We're going to talk more about that later today, and we also talked about the potential toxic combos that might arise from, especially the super tactical droids. And there's nobody better to talk about toxic play than Brian Baer. So I felt like I needed to have you on.
Yeah, no, I feel a little bit bad because I actually haven't finished your guys' tantrum yet. So
tantrum? Excuse me.
It's okay. He's gonna join the tantrum today. Everything's fine.
It is
tantrum.
I'm just gonna throw gasoline on the fire.
My goodness, tantrum. All right, so we got some business stuff up front. If you like what we're doing here at the Fifth Trooper, we have this show where we have us as the talking heads of the week. We also have the Fifth Trooper podcast back in full swing. Did some special Tours of Duty coverage, and then they have a episode that just released about tournament prep that's really good. We have our new painting series that we just started, Hobby Phase, where we have a wonderful video of a crowd drag being painted. Gonna have another exclusive video, the part 2 of the video game ranking that my brother and I did. This is like very long delayed for a whole bunch of reasons, but that's finally going to be a Patreon video that we're going to have up by the time this one goes live. We're doing all sorts of stuff. If you want to support what we're doing, please do consider joining the Patreon. I'd like to say thank you to the new recruits we have in Patreon. That's Gabs the Nerd, Felix Eppel, Kenton Carrier, and TJ Bolton. 4, Mike.
Wow.
4 new people since last week.
They must have really agreed about those Jedi.
They were like, I like the cut of that Michael's jib. I want to start supporting that channel. I'm sure that was it. Also, random patron H. Wisman. I think that this is a gentleman who's either from Germany or Switzerland or possibly Poland, because you know how like in German there's an S that looks like a B? No.
S.
Michael,
I'm Googling it right now.
I can't remember the name of it.
It's the S that looks like a B.
Yeah,
I believe Wikipedia says that it's called I'm gonna butcher Ezet, an ESZETT.
Okay, or it an S that looks
otherwise known
like a B,
as
sort of?
Yeah, otherwise known as a sharp S.
Right. So it's a sharp S, which means that I think the way this works is that no matter where it is in the word, it will make a sound like a snake, so Wisman. It would make that sort of sound. Whereas if the S if it's a single S, if it's the first letter, and I would love if German listeners can correct me if I'm wrong about this. If it's the first letter, then it actually. That's fine. We have some corrections we're gonna get to, by the way. I'm really excited about that. If it's the first S, then it actually makes an SH sound, like a sh. So I guess like with the single S, it depends on where it is in the sentence, or in the word, I should say, as far as what sound it makes. But if you have this one more time, with what is the letter called, Michael?
Oh man, Sorry. It's
This is
in Esset. This is the same thing. It's the Edelweiss song, right? Like that's the letter at the end of that,
right.
right?
So
Yes.
exactly, totally.
Yes.
That's a good example. That's probably where most people have seen it. And then, but if the regular S is in the middle of a word, I think that's when it makes actually a Z sound. Just because they really just want to confuse the hell out of us. So anyway, that was Learning German with Notorious Scoundrels. We'll be back next week with me going over a different language, but we do have international listeners, and we really appreciate them, and we like learning about other countries.
It's an international game, and our international
that's
community
right.
is awesome.
That's right.
They are. They're great.
We have a couple of international tournaments to talk about a little bit later, and I know Brian and I are both looking forward to taking part in WTC next year, as long as we're both able to make it. So, yeah, it's a global game, so people should just keep that in mind. And I think that's it for. That's almost it for the business stuff. We are now sponsored, as I mentioned last week. We're not going to do the whole spiel again, another German word. But we are sponsored by Game Toppers and Legion Terrain. And we have some promo codes that people can use for some discounts on those sites. So check out our YouTube page if you want to know more about that. We are, I think, in 2 weeks, going to have the Legion Terrain guys on the 5th Trooper cast to just talk about terrain. And I know that our 5th Trooper guys, Owen and Isaac, are very excited about that, and I am too. So please be sure to check that out. That is all the business. Time to get to us giving the business, just like last time. So Brian, before I get into this next segment, I have a question for you. Do you think that we ever get anything wrong on this podcast?
The answer, Brian, is no. We don't.
No, you can let Brian answer.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You guys get things wrong.
What he means is Evan gets things wrong. Just sort of.
What Mike means is that both of us get stuff wrong sometimes. And I thought that it would be fun to actually make this not an every week, but a little bit of a recurring segment. When we have enough time to sort of like build up a magazine of corrections that we need to make.
The crow you got to eat.
Yeah, and I just listen. Given my line of work and the times we live in, there has never been a better time to just remind yourself that sometimes you can be wrong, and the best thing to do is to actually publicly talk about it instead of doubling down on your wrongness. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now. You can wait until our Festivus episode if you want to hear a little bit more about that.
We could have a whole podcast about that.
Hi, Kyle. We could have a whole podcast about that one.
So perfectly delivered, Evan. That was so fantastic.
It's just living with this at least a small amount of trauma every day. And that's just how it is. But no, we have some Legion corrections. This is a Legion podcast. So there's going to be even a little bit of music for this. It's funny that the last couple times that Brian's been on, there's been a little bit of an NPR theme. So I figured I would keep that going a little bit when we were talking about our corrections. So first up, this is a correction for me. It is Fifth Brother, not Grand Inquisitor, that wins ties and Shatterpoint. That was from Joseph Picaro, or Joshua Picaro, I should say. And then next one, we have one for you, Mike. You claim to have listed every single character with a lightsaber during our last episode when you were trying to make a point about who has charge and who doesn't.
Yep.
And you forgot the one guy who has 4 lightsabers. That would be General Grievous. So what do you have to say for yourself?
I would say that General Grievous isn't a person. He's kind of a cyborg. He doesn't fit the description of a character because he's not a real person.
So because cyborgs are not people.
You got it.
Brian, do you have thoughts?
That's right.
All right, Brian signs on.
If you can't use force post, then you don't deserve to be in the category.
Wow. Strong statements from Brian Baer. All right, so moving on. This was both of us, Mike, from a TFT mini that we did on Rebel Troopers. The Rebel SX21 is not the cheapest heavy in the game. It is the Pike Whip, which is 10 points compared to the 13 that the SX21.
But how heavy is the whip actually?
It's a whip, and it's range 1. So listen, I forgive us for that one.
It's
okay?
probably more of a light weapon as opposed to a heavy weapon, right?
Yeah, it's so light that it's versatile even. So
there you go. There you go.
All right, so this is one from me. This was pointed out by Owen is right that Trusted Agent does not actually require underworld connections. That was from a Bad Batch video that we did, TFT Mini. So that's a good one to point out.
In our defense,
I think that was a forum ruling.
Yeah, in our defense, I don't believe that forum ruling had come down the pipe yet at that time.
I'm going to say that 100% for sure that forum ruling was not live because that just makes us look more knowledgeable. So it's going to roll with that. This is another one for me. This one is from Isaac Pendley. You might know him. And I quote, "The real reason why thermal detonators don't cause self-damage is that Star Wars is a PG universe with friendly fire turned off. This is why you can happily shoot a Z6 at a non-engaged enemy unit, even if your entire army is between those two units." And honestly, that was the best explanation for why you don't take damage from a melee thermal. So good on you for that, Isaac. We're going to talk a little bit about thermals later today. Speaking of toxicity, hey, Brian. So let's see. The second to last one is another one for you, Mike.
Oh.
The Jedi is not the first unit without a baseline weapon profile. It was the bus, which has no weapons of its own.
Sure. I guess that's fair.
And often has no weapons at all.
I'll own that one. I'll own that one. The bus in itself is a bit of a weapon. Yes, the bus in and of itself is a little bit of a weapon, but yes, it does not have a weapon.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, well, that's good.
That's the best apology you're going to get from Mike. I'm right, but okay, you guys can also be right.
I was just going to say, for those keeping track, I think that's like 5 genuine apologies from me, 1 couched apology from Mike, and 2 non-apologies.
You are technically right. Continue.
Last, this is more of a. It's not like a correction, but it's just to give some specificity to a topic that we spent a lot of time wondering about last week. I stopped at a store on the way back home, and I grabbed a beverage. Yeah.
To be clear, we're not sponsored yet.
We were just talking about our sponsors. We are not yet sponsored by PepsiCo, and this is definitely not an attempt to try to get them interested. But oh, look at that!
Oh.
Wait, Mike, what soda do you have?
I'm gonna decline to comment.
Okay. Yeah. But Brian, yours is a regular Mountain Dew, right?
It is. It's just a regular Diet Dew. Not even zero.
Yeah, listen, we don't have the time for regular Mountain Dew around here. We're all about the Baja Blast.
Yeah, we are.
It gives you a blast of what I'm not sure what is Baja about Baja Blast.
It's the tropical lime, obviously.
Baja's more of a beach desert than tropical.
Yes,
I don't know, man.
Right? I think it's more that it just makes you think that you're at a party.
Sure.
That you're at a wild, Baja spring break situation.
Except no one visits Baja for spring break.
Yes, it's not these days.
Not anymore.
But the clarification was going to be, I wondered about the exclusivity deal, so I did a little bit of research with this because Mike and I were talking about how Baja Blast was, for a time, a Taco Bell only flavor. Yeah. And apparently that was for a decade, from 2004 to 2014. And then since then, it's had like various limited releases until more recently it's been just out there in shops. I was just tickled by the fact that the first like limited retail release of Mountain Dew Baja Blast was a campaign partnership with Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, of course, being in racing, Brian, people in your neck of the woods, you probably remember Dale Earnhardt Jr. promoting Baja Blast. There was probably a resurgence of the flavor both in Oklahoma and in Indiana.
Yeah, racing wasn't very big in Oklahoma, at least in where I grew up, but it is definitely
I guess more of a football
thing.
state.
Yeah, definitely an Indiana thing.
Here's another fun fact that this is regular Baja Blast. There are 73 grams of sugar in this.
Yeah, that's why I drink the zeros.
That is
Baja Blast zeros.
That is triple the amount that would be recommended for a diabetic. That was triple the amount of the daily sugar intake recommended for someone with diabetes. In a single, we're going to lose our sponsorship, and in a single bottle of Baja Blast, I looked at this and I was literally just floored. It's been a while since I've drank regular soda, but holy crap, man, 73 grams of sugar.
There's a lot of sugar in regular soda. I exclusively only drink zeros and diets at this point because you'll destroy yourself with the sugar if you're not careful.
I got the sugars.
That one just that one threw me for a loop, and it's anyway. Wait for the Festivus episode. I might have a little bit more about nutrition.
Man, I'm excited for this Festivus show already. It's gonna be I'm
concerned because he's been pumping it up for like a month and a half now, and I'm not sure we're gonna live up to the.
It's not going to be disappointing. I think that I've already actually kind of decided that we might need 2 Festivus episodes, just because of the guest situation. That I think that we can make something special for having some hashtag holiday content.
Everything we make is special.
It's extra special. Sorry. Speaking of special, Mike, you were recently competed at the Crucible tournament.
I did. Yeah. I went to Florida on kind of a whim, and it was a grand old time.
Yeah. And how'd you do?
I did all right. I went 6-0 in the Swiss. And then I lost the first game in elims. I don't feel bad about that. I felt bad about it in the moment, but Richard, who I was playing, and I both are in agreement that had lightning not struck the dice, that I probably would have won that game.
Here we go, blaming the dice.
No, I actually, if you listen to his podcast, he'll say that very, very openly. And I think sometimes it's one of those things that when you're playing higher competitive Legion, you just got to be okay with the dice are going to get you eventually. At some point, there's going to be a game where they catch up to you. You can't always, I don't know. This is a dice game. You're going to lose some games of dice. I think in hindsight, if I had like 2 hours to puzzle out the situation I was in, I might have been able to figure out a better line. But I'm not sure finding that line was realistic given the time parameters of the game. So I'm not going to be hard on myself about that. But that's to say I made top 8, and it was a good tournament.
Yeah, I mean, then on the first couple of days, you were just bowling. And in fact, you played Richard once during the Swiss,
yes,
and you beat him then.
And our second game was actually basically the exact same game in that it was the same battle cards, same situation for the most part.
Did you open differently in your second game? Just because that's an uncommon situation, right? Where you have the same 2 lists in one tournament with the same objectives. I mean, obviously your maps would have been different.
We were playing Bunker Assault both games, so the answer is kind of no. And it was one of those situations where I don't think our lists had a ton of flexibility. Both games were Bunker Assault Sweep and Clear. There was just not a lot of flexibility in what you could be achieving. What I will say is that my So I don't know if you want to talk about Richard's list or not, but his list is very designed to kind of get in there on turn one. It's a remnant Gideon list with a couple darks. And his kind of go-to thing is to have a couple of units with Ruthless on turn one and some aim tokens from the Remnant Battle Force ability, and he kind of throws them at your face and like just rolls a lot of dice at you on turn one. And I basically just was like, you are not going to get close enough to do that. So he, in contrast to most of his matchups, he lost a lot of damage because of me playing conservatively. And with commandos in your list, you can kind of afford to do that, right?
Yeah,
because commandos are just that's one of the things that they're flexibly good at. But I think the thing that was unique about the list that Richard was playing, and the thing that made my choices and decisions difficult, was the double dark situation. I want to be clear. I think the double darks, like themselves, like the units were not particularly menacing. Like, they were, yes, they're like 150 points a piece, but they throw like 7 black dice. It's kind of like they do some damage, but it's not like, oh man, darks are gonna kill me, right? It's the pass tokens, and
yeah, the pass token situation is their greatest threat, it turns out.
Yeah, and specifically when you're playing, I say low activation Garless, but 11's about the highest you can get with force push in it. And have a reasonable list behind it. I just I couldn't wait him out with Yoda because he always had pass tokens.
Yeah.
And so I can never make the. Generally you're like, okay, I'm waiting to go last with Yoda, or, Brian, I know you like to play Op Luke. Like, you often wait to go last with a piece like that because you have the full information. Like the force push math is done, like the Jedi mind trick math is done. You just like pull the triggers on the force powers and they do the thing. And when your opponent has pass tokens, that whole kind of theory goes off the window if they have the right orders in the right places. So, that's sort of like where it came down to. Like, I think in our second game, I made the best decision probability wise, given the information I had, but knowing that I was going to flub a roll, I probably should have done something different. But like, that was something you only know in hindsight. And I think, if I were to go back in time, I think I would have made the same decisions again. But it's mostly because I didn't have full information at that juncture in the game because of the pass tokens.
I was gonna turn it over to you, Brian, just because what Mike is sort of going over is to me representative. And this is why I still wanted to cover this tournament, even though it represents a meta that's probably about to change pretty quickly. I think that exemplifies what the behavior of really, really strong players are, even when they lose a game on the final roll. And so I wanted to see what you thought about that, and then also what your other thoughts are.
Yeah, no, sometimes those miracle things just happen, right? And sometimes they happen for you, and sometimes they happen for your opponent. At Worlds a couple of years ago, I was losing a KP game, and the only reason I won it was because a fleet trooper single model rolled off 2 suppression at the very end of the game and was able to double move onto a point. It's just sometimes those things just happen. So yeah, but I think it's cool that you played Richard twice, and both times you guys were confident enough in both the secondary and the primary that, so it clearly showed how close the game was on the first one, and that you guys both thought, yeah, I'm totally willing to do this exact same setup because I'm confident I can win this one. And I just think it's cool that your guys' list matched up just like that, and you both felt that confident, which shows that it's going to be a really good match both times, which it was.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think it's one of those things where I think one of the reasons we ended up on Sweep and Clear was because I didn't want to play marked targets against this list. Marked targets seemed like a bad matchup into double dark triple super squad for me. just like I have a bunch of 5-man clone units, which are like just, I don't know, a lot easier to kill. I think sweep and clear generally, like sweep and clear allows me to choose the units that are going to die as opposed to mark targets, which is like he's going to pick 2 things I probably can't kill. But yeah, I think both of us were pretty happy with the turn 0 overall. I would have been much happier if we had played Bring Them to Heal, but that didn't end up coming up. So he outright banned that in our second matchup. I'm pretty sure in one of our games he was like, "Yeah, that's not happening. Goodbye."
Yeah.
Which
did he do any Dark Trooper yeeting to score the 2 points on sweep and clear?
Yes, that he did it in both games. I think he maybe attempted it in one and wasn't able to find it. I think in the second game. It was like the Dark Trooper teleport in our games. I would say it was like possibly the only reason he could score the 2 points in sweep and clear. Like, I don't think that it was ever going to happen otherwise.
Yeah.
Into defensive clones, 7 black dice is not the most stellar of pools to get that done. But I think overall, the Gideon teleport really helped him. In I think it was probably not as good in our matchup as it was in most of his other matchups.
Yeah, because one of the major strengths of that is that you can use that to pick on your opponent's weakest unit defensively.
Yeah.
Like if they have a naked rebel trooper that's hanging out in the back, then all of a sudden it's not really in the back anymore, and it's super killable with a sometimes with a one shot, or at the very least with the last first with that Dark Trooper unit. But against a clone army, that's not going to be as simple to get done. You're more likely to be able to try to run away and hide with whatever unit is most in danger, and it's a little bit tougher to pull off. But yeah, it was like that was a really cool tournament. There were a lot of really, really strong players there. Your Swiss was kind of funny because you ended up sort of playing one big name after another. Like you played Richard, you beat Richard, you beat Austin, you beat Ryan Slasky. We're gonna be talking about some other games that you've been playing recently, but suffice to say that there were a lot of really good players there, and so you played a lot of them, and the one guy that you lost to is a guy that you also beat in the same tournament. So all in all,
it was funny. We've played like, I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 games in top 8s over the last like 4 years or so.
Yeah,
and the whole time he's like, over the course of Crucible, he's like, I'm just looking to get this monkey off my back, man. Like I just want this one time. And I was like, all right, fair enough. And he found it, so props to him. He ended up winning the tournament, which I think was very deservedly. That list definitely, I think, inspired me to maybe give Dark Troopers a bit more of a shake. I'm not sure that is a list that I would run personally. It's not really my style, but I do think that Dark Troopers maybe have a place in kind of breaking open matchups where you traditionally would have a problem going last with your operative Vader. Dark Trooper fixes that really, really easily. You're like, oh, I'm gonna shove a Dark Trooper in this list, and my force push always goes last. Thank you very much. So is that going to be good? Who knows? But there's also command and control uplinks in our future, so we'll see.
Yeah, Brian, and you were actually, the last time you were on here, you were talking about Remnant being good all the way back then, and we both agree with you. But like, to me, I thought that their real moment was going to be after they got access to the customizables. But obviously, they did quite well before those were available. They, I think, they might have been technically legal for this tournament, but nobody really brought any because you had to actually own the minis. Do you think that it's going to be worth trying to cram a custom in there, mostly for CCA, Brian? Or CCU, command and control uplink?
I don't know. I feel like Richard's list was pretty streamlined. I know that he'd been working on that list for a while. One of our locals, Adam Slaber, I know had been talking with Richard a lot, so he has a lot of similar ideas that Richard has, and they I know that they were bouncing ideas off of each other in terms of building that list. And so Adam was super excited to see how successful that list was, because they had both theory crafted it pretty well. And so yeah, I don't know what you would. I think you want Krennic.
You'd probably have to get rid of a T-21 Super Squad, the Stormtrooper Super Squad, if you wanted to make room for a commander.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth it. I feel like you don't necessarily need that command and control uplink. I feel like you need that command and control uplink more when you have big focus pieces. I think Vader really likes that command and control uplink, right? I think that like a Din or a Boba can really, really like that command and control uplink, but I'm not sure that list necessarily needs it.
Tempest really likes it too, because what I found playing a couple games with that is that it allowed you to get a shot off of your ATST that's about to die, like no matter what, and then you sort of like let it go after that. So it was really useful in that too. But you're right. There's not really a focus piece in that. Even like Gideon as a commander, he's enabling a lot of things, but he's not a dice threat the way that like pretty much anything else on the list is. So there's this weird sort of perverse incentive against concentrating your fire on him.
You also, if you're going to take one in addition to Gideon, it's definitely an operative, because you don't want a second command bubble in this list. That's like
because of independent.
Yeah, I think the main issue that I have with command and control uplink is that the only thing that I think I would be really like looking to uplink in this list is one of the scout squads, and the scout squads also are generally going to be outside order range, so you can't really reliably uplink and also make sure that you get the scouts first.
That makes sense. That makes
sense. And that I think that's one of the big drawbacks of the list, I guess, is that like the order control itself is not very good. You know, I think he had an improv, which was fine, but like, you know, you are a little bit at mercy of the bag because you've only got a command bubble of 2. And like you kind of want to pick up the tokens if you can, from the independent that you're picking up from your battle force ability. So kind of having a very neutral, like everything in the bag is kind of the same is beneficial for the list. And that's kind of, I think, to your point, Brian, not what command and control uplink is really looking for.
It's funny you mentioned that, because it's sort of makes the list the inverse of the Ewok list, which also basically doesn't care about order control all that much. For them, it's also because they have 3 copies of improvised orders, but that it has 15 actual activations instead of the 9 fairly hefty activations that acts as if it's 11, but still cheats with pass tokens. Anything else about that list or Crucible, Brian?
No, it's just fun to watch. It was cool. There's a lot of good Legion and great players that were there. So it's just fun to. I wasn't able to watch as much as I hoped, but it was fun to just hop on, see how the game's going, chat with the guys in the chat. It was good. So.
Yeah, Riz, I should say your associate at Winter Moon, Dave Zelenko, was broadcasting those as he is also going to be doing at a tournament that we're at least briefly going to talk about at the end of the podcast. But there's some really good stuff on there for the people who are trying to like get better at competitive Legion. Watching a game that has 2 really, really solid players is a great way to learn a thing or two. And like a lot of those games just had like 2 really high class players playing interesting lists against each other. And I think there's a lot to learn. Mike, I got to say, just briefly on that, you know that there are quite a few people rooting against you when you were doing your Swiss game, your first Swiss game. I think it might have been your game against Austin. Was that streamed?
It was my game against Austin, and I just want to to remind people that games of Legion are never over until they're over. And that was maybe the best case of never give in, never surrender. I'm not sure I've ever been down that much in New Legion and actually came back and won. That was like there was a lot of hard decisions I had to make about scoring and stuff. And I appreciate everybody's hate. It only makes me stronger.
Yeah, that's the real point I wanted to get across, is that if you think that you're injecting any kind of like anti-Mike energy by openly rooting against him in the chat, you just know you're only doing the opposite. And so I didn't do this because I didn't want to be accused of accidentally doing anti-Mike energy. But like, if you, for instance, went in there and said, Mike's going to clean up, he's a really good player, that would actually probably be more detrimental to him than the open hate. Like, I definitely didn't want to mention out loud on the chat until it eventually actually happened that you had not lost a game in Legion 2.6 until you lost to Richard.
Yes, I was on like an A, like I think it was like 72 or something.
If you don't believe me, look at the Longshanks.
Yeah. Game win streak at that point. And I mean, look, like, it wasn't gonna go on forever, right? Like, it eventually had to come to an end. And I think all I could ask for was it be a good game. I think I don't want to losing when you're getting like massacred or butchered is just not fun, so I'm not. I mean, sometimes that happens in Legion,
It happens sometimes, yeah, especially when you're playing against Mike. So it's got a tiny bit of the feeling that you inflict on so many other people.
Well, I mean, somebody will reciprocate it to me in 2.6 eventually.
So yeah, that's Crucible. There's some good stuff, and we will have the Longshanks list to that and the other tournaments that we talked about. We're going to pretty briefly, focusing on the winners, go over some other recent results. We'll see if you guys have any thoughts about each one. So let's start with the one that was actually the smallest. I think that the Chopper Base Open over there in England is such a big deal that, with them always nearing 100 players, that the London GT by comparison ends up being a little bit on the smaller end. So I think that this was 21 players, but they did 5 rounds of Swiss, and the winner was the Alien Queen herself, Lila Claire, who decided that she wanted to live up to her nickname and play some Geonosians. So she did Poggle, 6 just plain old naked Geonosian warriors, and then 2 Into the Fray Vibro Impact Grenade BX squads, which is a cool addition. Staffs with HQ uplink, and then for the first one, and then link targeting array for the other 2. No strike and fade on those. And then only 1 Aqua Droid with a heavy and LTA, and on top of that, an AAT with LTA, high energy shells, and this is my favorite part, Lock Dird. You guys remember Lock Dird?
Oh yeah, Suppression Master.
No.
For those like Mike who don't remember what Lock Dird does, is that he taps to make all of your weapons suppressive. And so what that means is that you can either barrage or split fire. And does he actually work with barrage? Like, I think he wouldn't work with barrage unless you were somehow able. He does.
I thought he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's all your weapons. It's all your weapons. I mean, the thing is, it's the otherwise that would be like really bad because Lockdart would just be like 1 suppression to your gun.
Oh yeah, so this is why it works, is that he gains suppressive until the end of the activation for all of its weapons. So you would tap it before the first shot. It's not like most things that you tap where it only affects that action, is that his effect is for the entire rest of the round. And so along those lines, he is able to, whether you're split firing or doing barrage, you can get 4 suppression out that round. And he does require you to recover, but as long as the AT is where it is, then you will often be quite happy taking a recover action in order to get your rounds up and do another split fire Or don't worry about the recovering, and then you only get to shoot 8 dice out with high velocity. It's not so bad. So very strong performance from her. Then next one is Au Pont de l'Est. So this was the latest GT over there in France, in Grand Est, France. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right also. This one was won by Antoine Grenet. It seems like he has a couple names on Longshanks. This one was Masked Ewok, which was what he had used on when he was playing Invader League. And I guess I'm not sure whether that's like an intentional thing. If he was trying to do like the SIG sort of thing, where it was a mystery about who could Masked Ewok be? This French player who's bowling over everybody. But it was him winning yet again. Last time he had won over there in a GT had been with a Tempest Force list, which was sort of a funny antithetical to the list that he usually plays in Ewoks. But this time he went with a very interesting Republic list. I'm going to be curious to hear what you think about this, especially Mike. Have you seen this one?
I have not. So
okay,
this will
be live reactions. So we're going to start out with Anakin and Yoda. They both have burst, but otherwise they are all filled with various other upgrades, none of which are force push. So that's the starting point. Then we have Padme with no upgrades. We have 3 naked clone troopers, just getting the requirements in. We have 3 bark RPSs, blah. But obviously it works somehow. And then 2, you'll like this part, 2 ISPs with the beam cannons. So if you're keeping track, it is an Anakin Yoda list that has 11 activations, and 5 vehicles as a part of that, which on round 1, I'm assuming that he did Yoda 3 pip round 1 just because that's like typically the right play. And so that meant that all of those vehicles would be able to have full order control in terms of where he dishes them out. And they would also have some mods in the attacks that they made. The RPS and the Twin Beam are both range 4 weapons, which meant that he would have been able to like get the damage war started a little bit early no matter what. And then like you're sort of finishing things up, so to speak, with a bunch of quite fast vehicles that can get on objectives as they need to. And then for the power pieces, you have 2 of the best Jedi in the game. Even when they don't have force push, they're obviously both very formidable. So yeah, what do you think of that, Mike?
I have no notes. Outside, like, if I were gonna do something like this, it would be very similar. I think he's playing clone core squads as they should be played right now, which is with no upgrades,
with nothing,
because that's the best configuration. Because that's just is what it is. And I think if you're gonna, the list obviously can output insanely high amounts of damage if you get those beam attacks off. Like on turn 1, like that list actually probably does more damage than most Republic lists. Particularly you've got Luminous behind it, and then you follow up with just sticking 2 pretty sticky Jedi into the fray on turn 2. Definitely is like a 1-2 punch that if you're able to connect, probably just ends the game immediately, honestly. He's got a bunch of cheap, I shouldn't say cheap, but activations that are like pretty easy to die. So Tempted was going to go off. That's one of the other benefits of having the 4-man Chlor units. Like,
yeah, that's a really good point.
If they kill them, Tempted is very easy. And the barks like are durable, but they're about as easy to kill, and so there's just a lot of units that, you want to be killing, and you stick Anakin in there, and all of a sudden you're like, man, do I really want to kill these units? I don't know. And that puts your opponent in a hard position. I would like to note that Za's original foray into 2.6 was with like very high activation Republic lists and Yoda, and they were basically just like Yoda and a bunch of like naked units and barks, and it was, I think if I'm recalling correctly, it was like 3 clone infantry, a bunch of like naked arcs, a bunch of barks, and like he was basically just playing the objective game, you know. So it doesn't surprise me he's playing this list. I think it's probably pretty powerful, and definitely playing the right gun on the beam on the ISP.
Yeah, take that, world champ. See what you think about that one. Yeah, Brian, had you seen this list before?
I've not. I've played around with high activation spam lists with Anakin, trying to abuse his tempted as much as I can, and those are really fun. I often weigh mine down with pikes. It's like a couple of pikes and a capo and stuff, like just really try to make it as super lean as possible and high accent. I really like the addition of his barks. They're really powerful on tables right now. There's a lot of area terrain that they can hide behind, and there's a lot of I mean, and the fact that they can just triple move and stand on, or double move and no, they triple move now, don't they? Or yeah,
well, I mean, they can always triple. It's at speed 2, but it's speed 2 with the medium sized base compared to most speeders that are on the small base. So they're still pretty fast.
Yeah, they're still super fast, and so they can get onto points really easily, and they have red defense dice, so they're a little bit hardier than most of your other speeders. And so I think it's clearly a good objective list, and you could do really well with it. So
I really like this list, and yeah, I think the term 1-2 punch that you use, Mike, is just very on the nose in terms of what it does. And it's just important to remind folks that the reason why the front end of that 1-2 punch can work is because of the more than the tokens, it's the order control that you get from Yo's 3-pip in order to make it so that like you get to choose the order at which these things happen. Obviously super important for the ISPs, especially because your opponent will basically have to show you where the vast majority of their army is before you decide that you're going to start beaming.
Yep.
And that can be the difference between doing 2 attacks and doing 6.
I mean, it definitely is the difference. You know,
exactly. So yeah, very, very cool list from Antoine. Okay, so couple more to cover. We just had 2 tournaments in Las Vegas. Just this last weekend, we had the Las Vegas Open GT. That was sort of like the standard GT there, similar to last year. And this one was won by J.R. Dieter, who often shows up and does very well at these Vegas tournaments. He was playing a very similar list to what he had earlier in the year at the last LVO. A lot of Geonosian super squads this time instead of the regular ones. Also had triple stap with an HQ and 2 LTA, and then he had 2 aqua droids. But the main difference between his list and Lila's is that Lila's had a little bit more threat diversity, whereas his was just like sort of pounding those extra points into the Geonosians to make them super squads, to make them relatively hard to take off the table. And they have enormous dice pools that are very unreliable, but can hit like a dump truck as long as you get the right dice. And I'm not sure whether or not he was. I'm guessing he probably was playing the Poggle Surge to Crit, or is it Surge to Hit or Surge to Crit card? Yeah, so the Poggle Surge to Hit card, which is risky because you have to be within range 2 of Poggle in order to actually get that off, and that means the Poggle ends up sometimes being in danger. But when with a super squad, that's a lot easier to pull off because you have range 1 cohesion. So tossing a dude like way in the back in order to be range 2 of your commander is a much easier thing to get done. So any thoughts about Geo plus stat spam? I just think this is a really solid list, and that's all there is to it.
Geos are, I mean, we're seeing Geos pop up everywhere. Like Geos
they're everywhere.
They're really good in the GT. They're really good overseas, like we were talking about earlier. They're really good in the LVO IS. Like Geos are great. I mean, when you can triple move a unit onto a point and also do a lot of damage, or double move and do a lot of damage, they're great. They do great as peekaboo. They can hide behind area terrain, pop out, shoot something, come back. Just really, really extremely versatile unit. So
Yep. I bet he wishes he'd had just like a couple spare points because like he has a spider uplink that was, I'm sure, just to fill the 3 points that he had left over at the end. But it's when you see that one naked Geo, you're just like, that could have been Sunfac with just 10 more points. But he would have had to get rid of one of his super squads in order to do that. So it probably just wasn't worth it at the end of the day.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I think with the super squads, Sunfac's 1 pip is actually quite insane. And probably worth cutting 1 super squad.
Plus directing. Yeah, I mean, you could change the super squad to like a force pike, and then replace the naked Geo with Sunfac, and then like not only his 1 pip potentially, but also getting the direct on the super squad that you really want to activate first.
Yeah.
On any given turn, it seems like it would be really strong. So
brutal enforcer is just it is an insane card that didn't see a lot of play because Sunfac was what, I don't know, 80, 90 points.
He was 85 points before.
Yeah. Now he's 30, 55 or whatever.
Yep, he's 55.
I dare say that command card might be worth 55 points on its own in these super squad lists.
But usually, or very often, CIS lists have 1 pips that are more connected to their game plan. Like when Sunfac is truly just tossed in there, and especially if you don't have any Geos on your squad, then it's not.
Well,
really
then you definitely don't take it.
You wouldn't use it, but if you have like Sunfac and 1 Geo, then you're usually going to have like a Dooku or a Grievous where you need to have their 1 pips in there, and then you're thinking about, do I want to have the vehicle focused droid one if you wanted to get an early shot off with your Aquas, or do you want to have the Kalani 1 pip to get some negative order control? So I think usually it's just got too much competition to show up.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are playing, I would make the argument that if you got multiple Geo super squads and you're taking Sunfac, like you should be taking it. It's probably better than every other 1 pip in the faction, with the exception of Dooku's 1 pip. I think I would be willing to make that argument.
You think you might like talk about that one instead of Jedi Arts? Because I mean, Grievous sort of
I think
Grievous only works because of Jedi Arts.
I think Jedi Arts is not a good card right now.
It's a good
amazing, but
yeah, I mean, it's
the
fine.
Suppression bomb is the main reason.
It's fine.
Yeah,
right. Like it's not. You're not. And sometimes you go off it. It's fine in the same way that like Sabine's bombs are fine, right? Like, like it's going to do some damage. The chance that you kill like multiple units with it is like generally pretty low, unless there's a bunch of like unit leaders hanging about. Whereas the Sunfax card can completely change the game state, like completely blow out the game state in 1 play of that card. All of a sudden, you've got Geos that can move up to 4 times that round, if you want, or can triple move and then shoot you, like which is a threat range of 5 with 2 jumps that basically ignores all terrain.
Yeah, so just to remind folks, what it does is that it gives start of activation phase jump 3 move that can be Sunfac and up to 2 allied Geonosian warriors that are within range 2 of him, and then he gets agile and demoralized that helps him keep alive a little bit more. But any command card where you've done the important thing before the round actually starts is something that's nice, because then you're not Sunfac can go from full health to dead extremely quickly.
Yeah.
Yes,
but if you've played that, you've already done the biggest part of the command card before anybody would have a chance to kill him,
and
which is nice.
You also get to make the decisions with full information, in that you get to know if you won or lost priority before you're like doing the moves and stuff.
Correct.
Like often with these types of cards, the moves are happening when you are issuing the orders, so your opponent gets to kind of see what your choices were before they develop a game plan to stop them. Whereas with this card, you hand out your orders, then they hand out their orders, and then you're like, okay, I have one or loss priority, and I can make conservative moves with this card, or I can make super aggressive moves with this card because I know I'm going first.
That's a really good point, because something like No Time for Sorrows is during the command phase you do that move, and so your opponent has that information
right
at the start.
Yes.
You guys don't have to sell me on Sunfek. I live in the heart of the Church of Sunfek, so like it is the Church of Sunfek. They've got the Sunfakelites are all over Indiana and Ohio.
Trent was playing Sunfac, and he had come on our podcast to talk about CIS. This was part of our series of like talking about what the meta is, and then right at the end of that series is that freaking AMG released a surprise update. And so I think that was the last time I devoted an entire month to talking about what the meta is. But on our cast before the points cut, Trent was talking about being a fan of Sunfac. So he must have been through the moon when he got cut by 30 points.
So just so you guys know, we had at Indy Open, it's like 50 people tournament, right? There's in the top 10, there was 3 CIS players playing Sunfac, and this was before the point drop. So they're already on.
You guys were ahead of the curve, man. Ahead of the curve. And then we dropped the floor out from under the curve after you guys figured it out.
Yeah, and now the cheapest commander in CIS is Courage 3. And 55 points. Yeah. Who knew that? Who knew that? Like at the start of 2.6, that we would be talking about. Man, the meta was really shaken up by Poggle and Sunfac, right? That's not a thing that I would have predicted. I can tell you that. So also at Las Vegas, we had the LVO Invitational Series Championship. So this was, not like an official GT, but as has been talked about many times in other podcasts, is that it's this like invitational series that various other tournaments can become a part of. And then you just end up with this big group of skilled players who are getting together to play against each other. And this ended up being a really close one. They ended up playing 6 matches. They ended up with out of a total of 36 players. I'm not even positive like how this happened, but there were 5-5-1s.
I'm not.
How did that happen? Actually,
I'm not sure what the math is. There was, if you look at the Longshanks, it's very clear that there was a lot of drops in this tournament as the tournament went on. So I don't know. I think, there was definitely pair ups and pair downs in the last couple rounds, and like some pair downs lost and some pair ups won.
Right,
and like it got weird. I mean that is the outcome.
And so you ended up in this crazy situation where the number 3 list, which was played by Kenji, which was a just like CIS good stuff is the way I would describe it. High activate, 15 activations with 2 Aqua Droids, Sunfac, Asajj, T-Series, Kalani, just CS good stuff. Like he was 5-1 with a strength of schedule of 1.83. And then at 1.88 was Colin Watson, who was also playing CIS. This one was 12 activations, Poggle, Sunfac, 4 Geonosian Super Squads, in case you're seeing a pattern here.
I believe he was also the only undefeated player going into the last round.
Right. Yeah. He only lost his very last match. That is correct. And then the winner by strength of schedule at 1.92 compared to the 1.88 from Colin. Again, this is like razor thin margins. Was Michael Stubbs, and he was playing clones. You've seen this list, right, Mike?
I've seen this list many times. Michael Stubbs is a Nova local. So he's about 20 minutes from me.
And so you've played against this list locally then?
I played against that list in the finals of Nova Open.
Okay. So, did he change it?
No, it's exactly the same. I think.
Okay.
I think it's exactly the same. I definitely looked at it on Longshanks, and I know that he was telling me that he brought it to Nova in order to practice for LVOIS. So
Nice.
I suspect that he didn't. It didn't look like there were any modifications. So it looked very similar.
It's good that he didn't let himself get too defeated by losing to you at Nova, and you'll see this list on the video, but this was a lean clone list, but a clone trooper only list, which is something that you don't see too often these days. But it was one that was somewhat focused on just like having hefty units. There wasn't really there's no lean. The leanest thing in here is actually the fact that he's a generic clone commander.
Yeah.
Which is also I think this is the only time I've seen the generic clone commander in any of my working 2.6 memory. So get on him for getting some utility out of that. But after that, you got Rex, Bad Batch, a 5 super squad with a shotgun. So that's like 150 point unit right there. Actually, more than that, I think. A regular clone infantry with medic and a mortar, regular clone infantry with boil and a mortar, and then 3 commandos, one of which was Delta Squad with offensive push. So, and then the other 2 of which, in fact, had the classic double HQ uplink situation. So, despite the fact that list in particular, or those 3, are a total of 60 points more than they had been at the start of 2.6. It turns out that it can still work sometimes when you know what you're doing. Obviously, Michael did, he took care of business with a 9-act list that didn't have any like pass token shenanigans the way that Remnant does, and so I think that is impressive in its own right. Had you seen this list, Brian?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's got everything that I love. The 5 super squad shotgun is like one of my favorite units in clones. I just love it. It's so fun. And yeah, it's
a great unit.
It's a very consistent list, and it's good to. I'm glad that, like you said, that he decided to stick with it, because a lot of time I see a lot of players go take a list really far, lose in the finals, and be like, I think I just need to switch stuff up.
This list sucks.
and you're like, why? Like, you just did fantastic. Yeah. Like you lost a close game at the end. Like clearly this list is very successful. Keep going with it. And so it's good that he did, and we could see his experience shine through at LVOIS with how successful he was. So
it's funny. In our finals at Nova, I think a large portion of why I won that game was actually the ARF Trooper brick I brought, because it just annihilated his 5 squad off the rip. It just put like his 5 squad was no longer a super squad at the end of turn 1. And that ended up being obviously like a big deal.
Saved by the ARF.
Yeah.
Who would have known?
But I will say, I think the biggest thing about his list is Boyle. Boyle actually pulls a lot of weight in the opening turns with like keeping the commandos alive, and
that's a really good point.
It's like, particularly in the commando mirrors, it's miserable to shoot into that list. Is absolutely miserable, because he's got a couple of medics or maybe he's only got 1 medic to like, if he ends up taking a casualty on the commandos through Boyle or whatever, he still can put him back. So yeah, I think there's a lot of defensive redundancy there, and he likes to be Rex allows him to be very aggressive with 5s and Bad Batch on turn 1 too. So there's just a lot of threats that you have to manage kind of immediately.
Yep.
I will say that having 2 mortars in his list is detrimental to the hashtag uncumbersome movement. But that's really the only negative thing I have to say about the list.
I've had that conversation with him many times.
I mean, they're cheap. When you're talking about mortars, the plus is that they're very cheap,
yes,
right?
That is the plus.
Notice that he is not using any RPSs in this list, which I feel more confident is saying is badness. And then I'm guessing that the clone commander was busy doing a direct to 5s and then hiding like crazy is what he did with that guy.
In our games, yes.
Yeah.
I think in our last game, Yoda got a hold of him. And
yeah,
we know how that story goes. Yeah.
That's one shot territory for Mr. Yoda.
We see that happen in the Sheik, right? It just cuts this guy's heads off.
Yeah, yeah. Those were, I think, I guess I don't know whether those were technically ARC troopers or just clone infantry, but yeah, he literally just, I don't think he's even looking at him.
No.
They just like come up behind him. And he's like,
it's Commander Gree.
Pierce 2. There's only 2 troopers in the unit.
It was the flow of the Force, man. You know.
Yeah. I think it was Clone Commander Gree. I think. Anyways.
Wow.
Yeah.
That man, if you're dropping the knowledge of what clone commander it is, then
my kids
Brian.
know all the clones. It's their favorite, and so half of my whole clone army is painted by my kids. They love it so much.
Nice.
Your kids have got good heads on their shoulders, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're fans of that instead of whatever the hell rebels are. Your juntas. It's much healthier for them to be fans of clone troopers than your military rebellious juntas. Briefly, I did also want to just mention I sent this image to you guys in the Discord earlier, just as a little catch up for now that it's safe to say we're at the end of at least a stage of the meta. I'm going to be curious, like, to what extent you think that is going to be changing. Wait, no, that's not the right music. We got to change this up. I was pulling up the NPR music and I pulled up the wrong one. This is the one we're supposed to do. So let's run the numbers. Looking at the meta catch up for like post June of 2025 update. And so this chart that you guys have seen and that we are going to have up in the video just like shows the direction that the various things have gone. What's been interesting is that it does look like some of the ends that were intended with the June update were achieved, but that there's still ways to go. Empire did improve by 5%, and then CIS is still at 57. It honestly feels like it's higher than that. Just when you consider the sort of list, the variety of powerful lists that they can run, it still feels unreal. But this is sort of the snapshot of the final era of whatever the heck this meta is, into going up until mini extravaganza and the points change, and then four new releases are happening all in early November. So, what do you think? Do you have any predictions in terms of how much more this is going to change by then? Or obviously, it's a little bit tough to call. What do you think, Mike?
This could be upside down. It could be the same. It could be, I don't know. I think based on what we've seen so far, I think I would expect the GAR customizable to not really affect Republic win rates much. I think Rebels and Empire, it might help them out. I think, I sort of expect CIS to maybe go up a bit with access to their super tech.
Well, that's the question. Really, is the balance? We're about to talk about the super tax, but do you think that there's going to be enough points adjustments that will offset the advantages they're going to get from the super tech, Mike?
I expect this points adjustment, I think, to be pretty tame. I think that we'll see Aquas get touched, and I'm not actually. I think the things that I'm like pretty sure will get touched are Aquas and Unstable, and like anything else, I think is like we'll see. I guess I'm not really sure that they're those two things I think are problematic and have been problematic for like the last 6 months. and I'm not sure that like there's like a touchstone on any other unit being or upgrade being particularly problematic over the lifetime. Because I mean, realistically, if we're getting points updates in a month, they would have needed to have been aware of an issue at least 2 months ago, right?
The only, I think you're right. The only other thing I can think of is maybe is the Geo Super Squad cost. I could see that going up just because like LVO was in January when, and like there have been relatively few people that have wanted to do the time and financial investment into actually owning that many Geonosian warriors, because like that's getting into Ewok territory just for 2/3 of your army. But I do think it's a possibility that they noticed that that was maybe a little bit aggressively costed.
I don't think that's a possibility at all. I think that frankly, I'm just trying to be honest. I think super squads are, if they're going in a direction, they're coming down, not up. And I think the fact that Geos happened to be one of the better ones off the rip, I think was okay. I'm not even convinced the Geo super squad lists are like really a problem. The Geos are very easy to kill. I think and a lot of the new success they're finding is off the back of the economics of having 55-point characters, which I'm not sure is a Geo problem. I think it might be a maybe these came in a little too hot problem, and and I think Separatist still has a lot of cheap other stuff that you can pack into those lists in addition. So yeah, I don't know.
Brian, what are your thoughts on how the meta might shift?
Yeah, I think Aqua's going up changes a lot. I mean, we look at all these really strong CIS lists, and even though there is variety among the lists, they all have one or two Aquas, at least all the ones that I've seen in top performing lists. And so that would change how the list runs. And it would limit some of those cheaper other units. Like we would see less super squads of the Geos or things like that. And so I'm hopeful that will happen, because I do think Aquas are overtuned. I am interested. I know that I have biases here with the unstable, but I'm interested in your take on that, because we've had a lot of high level tournaments and high competitive tournaments where people either are choosing not to take it or are taking it and not doing super great. So what's your reasoning there?
Yeah, I think the existence of the Landspader basically makes white save armor that is not like hyper efficient or super durable like Aqua's basically unplayable. Because you just, when you can like quad tap or even the double tap with one land speeder, like that just puts a unit like an ISP or a LAT immediately in the ground. And I think that design space is a problem for the game. I'm not saying that it's like it's possible they're not good enough to be like super. I mean, like obviously you play them viably competitively, but they might not even be overpowered. I just think that they are boxing out other units that otherwise would be viable choices to put on the table. And I think unstable specifically is the reason that is the case. Like if the land speeder was just like didn't have access to unstable and was a little cheaper, I think it would be fine. It's not a big deal. But the fact that you're just like putting like, it's what, like impact 12 critical 4 or something into whatever target you want at the end of the turn. Do I have that right, Brian? Yeah. Like that's kind of insane without being able to respond to it. Like some of the red save armor can kind of hold up to that because sometimes they'll just save out of it, but the white save armor is just dead. And so I think some of the bigger pieces, like, I think even the Persuader tank looks at that and is like, yeah, I don't really want to mess with that, and I just think that design space would or gameplay, how it works space should probably be opened up. And I think, So my expectation is my hope is that they'll deal with unstable. But yeah, I mean we'll see. But I think if I'm a designer and I'm looking at the last 6 months, I think that's in my head pretty profoundly.
After all, comms relay and aggressive tactics were taken away in order to uncramp design space.
Yeah.
And I could see unstable like being in the same sort of zone. But what do you think, Brian?
I mean, like I said, I'm super biased because I like running it and I'm good with it, right? I have taken it to top tables and it works for me. I know that it doesn't work for everybody and it's not everybody's style, but I have a hard time with the argument because if that was the case, we wouldn't see as many successful ISP lists, but we do see quite a few successful ISP guard lists.
Yeah, I think that's specifically because people, and I think the land speeder situation is compounded by the fact that they're actually basically impossible to source at the moment.
They are over $100 on eBay.
Yeah.
So listen, Brian, you're speaking from the top of your mountain. As somebody who just won a GT with double land speeder and somebody who owns 2 land speeders, saying, well, I don't think it's that much of a problem, actually. I think it's just fine.
That's what I'm saying. Is like I'm in a terrible position here, but I'm just not outside of a select player. I haven't seen it have any success.
An elite player, Brian, like you.
I'm saying that I think I'm the only one that's been successful with it, and so I mean, sure, if you want to nerf me, that's okay, I guess.
Jeez.
We're specifically talking about this so that they come after Brian Baer. You got it. We've been found out.
They already did it with my standby shenanigans.
I know.
I just don't understand how this whole situation with you could possibly have gotten worse since Worlds, but obviously the article that anonymous person wrote on our site, it wasn't as effective as it really needed to be. I'm gonna just come up with new ways to take care of the problem that you represent. But
I'm so excited
for those who are considering donating to our Patreon. This is a part of our mission for the good of humanity is to stop you, and so we're just gonna keep trying. Evil can only reign when good men do nothing.
There you go. There you go.
I do agree that unstable astrobag does need to go up. I'm just not personally because of the way I play it and the way success that I've had. But I just haven't seen the evidence in turn outside of select small subset.
Yeah, I think I agree with that generally. I don't think that it is found the success that I would expect it to have, because I do think it's very powerful, but I do think that part of it is people just don't have land speeders. And
it's 1-2 GTs,
Yeah. I think, but I
done pretty well.
But yes, but I would expect a lot more people to be playing it. I guess I think to Brian's point, when I went to Crucible, I didn't bring an ISP specifically because of double land speeders, and then no one basically showed up with land speeders.
Yeah, that was an oopsie on Brian and his part. I think or at least I kind of scared you away. I figured that there would be some meta chasers playing double land speeder.
I mean, and that's okay. But I think it's one of those things where I do think it's a defining enough thing in the game that you have to think about it during list building, right? In a way that you don't have to think about other things. You got to have a kind of a plan for everything in the game, but the land speeder thing is more of it's very specific, right? It's does this unit just die turn 1? If I get this matchup, and if that's the case, is this tenable?
Yeah. If you have a single white state vehicle that's kind of a focus piece in the way that a lat often will be for your list, it is just a really negative incentive against running a list that can, where if your plan is based around being able to activate that vehicle on turn 2 at all, then the double land speeder list does represent a problem as is currently constructed, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, how many pieces?
I think
How many pieces are you willing to put on the table that cost more than 100 points that you're like, oh yeah, I would be okay with losing this on turn one? I mean, the answer is none, right?
Like,
yeah, but especially when you're talking about a lat, where a lat is typically going to need to be a part of a larger game plan if you're using it at all. And so it's true that it's always going to be able to drop off the peeps, and that there's not anything that will stop it from doing that. But most of the lat lists that are running out right now are running, two ordinances on it, maybe a spotter uplink, maybe a door gunners, and then if you're just like, well, my opponent can just sort of effortlessly take care of business at the end of round one, then I don't really want to do that. Anyway, so I am sure that we're going to have plenty of predictions pre mini stravaganza once we get closer to that. But until then, we actually have some experience with newer stuff that has either been an early release or a proxy. So specifically, Mike and I, we like to try to back up the game that we talk, just in terms of if we think that something could be good or could be bad. I think that both of us have an interest in trying it out for real and not just moving on to the next thing. We like to give people some frontline feedback. So we accidentally ended up trying out some different things. And Mike, I actually want to start with Hondo, who is actually out.
Yeah.
As long as you got the pre-order bonuses from your store, fingers crossed for you that you were able to do that. Everybody out there. So tell us the list that you played with Hondo and what you thought about him.
Yeah. So the general game plan here was Tack Strike followed by Hondo's 3-pip. So it was essentially like, we're going to get aim tokens and we're going to use them for marksman or precise or whatever, right? Hondo was fine, I think it's kind of a 1-2 punch. Hondo did his thing. The 3-pip was okay, I guess. I don't.
It was aims.
Yeah, it was aims. We rolled some dice. I think the conclusion that I came to was like, Empire attack pools just like don't have very high ceilings, so it's like really hard to like. You're never like, I got 10, because all of your pools cap out at like 7 or 8, and it's like, I think that the biggest pool I threw was a Death Trooper range 2 shot, which was good, but it was good because of Tack Strike, and it was not good, and Hondo didn't have much to do with it. So I mean, I think what I learned about that list over the course of playing it for 3 games, I went 2-1, was that Iden's still way too expensive. She's not bad, but
good job limiting your language.
Yeah.
There, I'm so proud. You've really grown.
She's too expensive.
I was looking for that. I was looking for that sharp
expensive.
S. And so, she's definitely like she's in the needs a 30-point reduction bucket, I think. But
I think we're going to have a whole podcast segment about like the character reductions that we're expecting from Ministrav. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Hondo was fine. I never played his, it was the 2-pip where, it's like a really weird to be wanting to play that card, I found, at least in the setting of an Imperial gun line.
Because you got to be up close for that to do anything.
You got to be up close, and like, you do get a bunch of suppression the turn before, but it just, I don't know. It didn't feel like, every time I was like, no, I got to do something else. And in many of the games, it was, I got to play standing orders because otherwise Hondo's going to die. So what I will say is that when you play standing orders, it's basically impossible to kill Hondo. It like 4 independent dodge tokens plus 4 reliable 4 plus nimble is like really hard to kill. The problem is Hondo doesn't actually do anything, you know. So
that's my thing, is that obviously he has the 3-pip, and then on any 3 or 4-pip command, he's very difficult to deal with from a killing him standpoint, I should say. But then aside from his 3-pip, like, how is he actually contributing aside from just being a body to your overall effort?
So what do you put on him? How did you load him out? Is my question.
I didn't take any upgrades on him, I don't think. Yeah. I was purely just like kind of trying out the 3-pip. He ended up like in melee with, what I will say, the best thing he did for me was not the 3-pip. What it was it tar pitting Jedi that didn't have force push with standing orders. Which he did multiple games, and I was just like, here, sit in melee with Asajj. You know, he's got 4 dodge tokens and is unkillable. You know, like, which was not a bad use. You know, it protected my stormtroopers and stuff. But he feels a little expensive as like a 90-point tar pit for hoping your opponent forgot force push. You know, I don't know. He's fine, I guess. I don't think he's. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Personally, I loaded him out. So I have a list I want to try. I haven't played it yet, but it's a CIS list with basically pretty decent order control. It's got Hondo, a bunch of Staps, a bunch of Core, Asajj, and Poggle. But the way I loaded Hondo out is I gave him prepared supplies, impact grenades, and frag grenades.
Yeah,
because
that's 98.
Yeah, and you can do some fun stuff with it.
I believe that. I believe that.
It's good to remind folks that his biggest dice pool is his blaster, which is range 1 to 2, but it's versatile, right? And so when he has Arsenal, you can be doing, like, even if he's engaged, you can do a 4 black dice melee, and then also shoot with his blaster out of the engagement. As long as you have Arsenal 3, then you can get that done. Frag grenades are not versatile, which means that's only going to proc on an actual range 1 shot.
Yeah.
But when you do that, when you do those 2 grenades with the blaster, it's 1 white, 4 black, 1 red with served crit.
Well,
and
it's
impact 4.
It's notable that he's got disengaged, so you can always get the shot if you want it.
That's fair. It's funny, like, he has so many keywords. He's like an interesting experience because his baseline stats are garbage, and then you toss like 8 keywords on top of him to sort of like see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, in the game I played, I literally, like, he was tar pitting Asajj went, and then he just like bounded out of melee with Asajj and went and bounded into melee with a force pushless Dooku and tar pitted him the same turn. You know, it's just like
yeah. But like you mentioned, Brian, I do feel like having strong negative order control, like, for him is something that would be really helpful, because like you always want to be getting those dodges, but you don't want to be in a situation where if he's the only operative token among like 10 other tokens that you have, his utility goes down by quite a bit.
Yeah,
man's dead.
But I mean, you get that, and they have, like, a CIS has really good access to direct. You got Staps that can get an HQ. Like, you can comfortably play standing orders every round and just cause mayhem, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Yet again, another way to play CIS successfully, in my opinion.
I know, God, it's just not fair.
I do think after messing with him, that's the most likely place for him to be good right now. Because you just want to play standing orders every turn, and CIS already kind of wants to do that.
Exactly.
I could actually see Spider Uplink on him, just from the standpoint of because he has disengage and it's only 3 points. That if you're activating him early on, like if it's standing orders and you activate him early with all of his dodge tokens, you make your attack and then you get out of melee and then you make your attack. Then he, like, either somebody needs to bother to re-engage him to shut it off, or they need to keep shooting at like the nimble dodge fortress. And so if you have 3 points left over, it's not a terrible thing to do.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think if I'm going to put a comms slot on him though, or comms upgrade on him, I would try to fit in comms jammer, because he's the kind of guy you want to be throwing in there, and he's just going to be. I mean, that's, you want to maximize mayhem, then maximize the mayhem.
Yeah,
that probably makes more sense. Yeah, which, and that's like a quote fully upgraded Hondo, which is 103. So then you're getting in the territory of not a meager investment, but it's also not what your list is built around. So it seems pretty doable at that.
And hilarious.
Still a few points more than a Aqua with a heavy. Just wanted to remind people that. So speaking of fun you can have with droids, I think that I'm going to mention that I played at a local Blue Sky Hobbies Games, which is a wonderful store over in Bremerton, Washington. I've talked about them before. They actually, like, they still have a decent amount of Legion stock, so like they have kept it real. But I decided to play a list with the generic super tack in the operative slot. What I ended up going with was a Dooku, Kalani, Sunfac, and generic super attack in the operative, and the programming upgrades that I gave it were the free direct, the slice comms, of course, because I needed to report back on like how crushing that one really is. That was one that even Brian was like, if you really want to ruin people's day, because that's Brian's specialty, is that you could bring Dooku and slice comms together to just like take their orders away before they activate. And then the third programming that I gave that one was overclock. I did not take limiter override just because there wasn't enough space. Going back, I actually would have taken limiter override.
Limiter is the aim, dodge, or
limiter is it's either the aim / dodge, or it's taking an immobilize away, or it's taking suppression away.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like, it's the upgrade that says just do whatever you want to help win the game. Yep. So of course that's the one that I didn't take. But I went 2-1. I lost my first game, which I often do when I'm going in cold with a list, just because I hadn't really figured out what I was doing, and my opponent didn't know what he was doing. So you lose most games that go in that direction. But after that, I was able to sort of like clean up my opener, and I'll say this: I didn't include this in the correction segment, Mike, because it's technically a matter of opinion.
I also think you're wrong, but continue.
We spent, all right, so Brian, you're going to be the tiebreaker here.
Okay.
We spent a good amount of time talking about the programming slots on the Super Tac, and how at least a couple of them, I would say that slice comms, overclock, and limiter override all feel like they are extremely strong effects to be couched in a free action. And especially when one of them is going to be recovered per turn. We talked about slice comms a lot. Mike even confidently said that slice comms is a better upgrade than force push. But I actually think that overclock is a more meaningful upgrade. Now that I've had the experience of actually playing with it in a list, part of this is affected by the fact that I faced up against 3 very different lists. The other one was a Dooku Aqua without the generic super tac, which meant that there weren't going to be any cunning trips for the 1-pip. The second one was a Tempest Force, where they also didn't really care all that much about like their face up border situation, and when they really needed the help, they used command and control to actually like jump up ahead of me. And then the third list was a clone list that it had only it was a 501st list that had Ahsoka as the commander. And so that was the one situation out of the three where there would have been like potential for messing them up with using slice comms. But the way that game shook out, Ahsoka was sort of on the edge, spending her time trying to melee an aqua droid to death. And the generic super attack was in the middle. And the slice comms there, that was the game where it mattered the most, just in the sense of I was suppressing his clones before they activated, and if they didn't roll that off, then he had an ARC trooper that was stuck there, which is a very sad ARC trooper. But it didn't. That one didn't carry my objective forward in all three of my games, and I think that short of maybe having had an opportunity with Ahsoka in that third game, the other two games there basically would have been no situation that I can think of where it would have been a game-turning play to play slice comms, because you're against droids with Dooku, and then you're against Tempest Force, and so the most you're usually doing is just kind of getting some suppression on there. What mattered in all three of my games was doing a free action speed 2 move with whatever AI unit close to me was the one that I just like wanted to move a lot that round. So that sometimes that was a spider, because the rest of my list was I had one flamer spider, one ion spider, and a Deca to round out my support slots. And so I often moved spiders around with it, and I also often moved aquas around with it, just because you're getting extra oomph out of your speed 2 move with that. I did it with B1s a couple times just to get them on a point that they were too far away from otherwise. And so in a way it was like force push on your own side. That it's true you have the immobilized token that affects what you can do after that, but a free action speed 2 move is really, really good. And that's the thing that I think that's going to matter in every game. Like, just full stop, being able to move your own guy with a free action. And again, I didn't even have limiter override, so I did have to deal with the consequences of having immobilized tokens. Now, it didn't matter that much, because once the units were there, they actually, when the aquas got there, they didn't need to move anymore. So they were just taking an aim shoot the next round anyway. When the spiders got there, if they really needed to move, they could still do a speed 1 after that. And I usually was activating my tactical late so that I could, sort of do a last first situation as far as those moves go. But man, I just think overclock is the slot, and now I'm ready for you guys to tell me why you think I'm wrong. Starting with you, Michael.
Me? No, I'm gonna let Brian take this one.
Starting with you, Brian.
Okay, so first of all, I really like your argument, because I do think overclock's very, very strong. Part of it is that I think overclock has a great use in the game and is a cool mechanic, and it will be successful most of the time, like you said, and it'll be useful in every game. I have
it always matters.
Yeah. It doesn't straight up win you a game like slice comms does, in my opinion. I think slice comms is there's reasons why these kinds of mechanics of picking up a token are tied to command cards that you can only use once per game. Things like Echo Base 1 pip, right? Or Dooku's 2 pip, right? Those or Pin Down. Those kinds of things, there's reasons why those are limited to command cards. And for the most part limited to once per game for your list. This, I worry. So I have a same feeling about this card that I did about Inquisitorious Training, right? And Inquisitorious Training freaked me out, because I'm like, why the crap would I spend 200 points on a unit that I need to do something, and then just have that turned off by a 5-point upgrade like that? That did not sit well with me. Luckily, it was tied to a unit that's not great. And so a lot of our hysteria, which I felt too as well, I wasn't as vocal as some people, but I did feel it.
I'll
Right?
be vocal for the both of us, Brian.
I felt that concern though when I saw the upgrade, because I like playing Vader. I like playing Op Luke. I like playing Yoda. I like playing really, really expensive units that can do a lot of cool stuff. And when a card like this comes out, I worry about how much this discourages me as a player who enjoys those kinds of things. I worry about how much this just discourages me to play a unit like that. Because it's similar, like it's exactly like what Mike was saying earlier about his concern for unstable astromech, is that if there's that thing in the game that worries you enough to where you're like, I want to take this unit, but if I show up against that thing, it's just going to screw me over. And so as a result, I'm not going to take this unit, which I wanted to take, but I also really want to win this tournament. And because of that reasoning, I agree with Mike. I think we do need to see an increase. I was just playing devil's advocate because I liked running it and because I wasn't sure if the evidence was there to back him up. Even though I mostly agreed with him.
So I'll say, don't get me wrong. I think that maybe all three, but definitely two of those upgrades, those being Slice Comms and Overclock, I think that they're both undercosted. So this is not me saying that that Slice Comms is fine. I like even two suppression every single round alone on something that is pretty much going to have Master of the Force is really useful. I think that we probably would have paid 8 points if it was just Jedi mind trick, so to speak. They probably would have made it cheaper. But
to be clear, this is better than Jedi mind trick. You can hit commanders and operatives.
Oh yeah, that's another good point. No rank restrictions. Thank you for reminding me of that, Mike.
Yeah.
And so it would have been good enough if it was just Jedi mind trick for droids without any restrictions, but it's Jedi mind trick plus pin down in a fashion that it does have access to cunning. And then even if without Dooku, something that I did in one game was that I combined it with the Kalani 1-pip to really like mess with their ability to activate the units that they wanted to. That sort of made it have like a little bit of flavor of the old Palpatine 2-pip situation, RIP. But yeah, so like, but there are games where it's quote just going to be 2 suppression every round. Whereas Overclock being able to do free action moves is always going to be relevant. But anyway, Mike, I should let you speak. Did Brian already make your argument for you?
Well,
no, keep going, Brian.
Yeah, no, I just think, I think that it is a powerful enough mechanic that you would want to make it once per game, right? Like it's another thing like Luke's I am a Jedi. That is a powerful enough mechanic that you need to make it once a game, right? I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you imagine that like every round? Like that's crazy. And so I once again though, like I haven't played against it. I've seen it played, and I'm worried about how good it's going to be. But I also, I mean, it may not be as worrisome as we think. I think that's possible, but the potential is there, and I'm worried for the potential in terms of list building. I'm not. I still don't like the Inquisitorious training. I don't like what it does, and I don't like what.
Yeah,
I don't like what this does. It's not. To me, it's not a great mechanic for the game.
I look forward to our future where both the Inquisitors are 30 points cheaper so that they toss in Inquisitorious training, and therefore that will shut Jedi down, but it will do nothing to stop these programming upgrades, which are basically force powers. Anyway, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have a ton extra to say over what Brian said here. I think Evan, your argument is generally sound. I think if you are looking at which one of these upgrades is more powerful on average in the course of a turn, in every turn, overclock will definitely be stronger, right? In the same way that, like, I don't know, having I'm not gonna be able to come up with a good comparison off the cuff. But I think, I do want to kind of rebut Brian a little bit here. Brian, you said that this effect is normally like should be once per game. I think you could use it once per game, and like it's already devastating enough. It doesn't take. I think one of the things is that, like, not only are all of those effects that you mentioned once per game, they also take up your command card slot. Like,
that's true.
They're not just once. They're not just once per game. They're owning a spot in your hand. You have to play them on a specific turn where you might otherwise want to play like a different command card for a different effect. Like, you can play this the same turn that you play the new super tack, like aim token battery thing if you wanted to. Like, I don't think that that's probably the best use for it, but the fact that you don't have to give up the effect of Dooku's 1-pip to kick your opponent's order back to their pool is kind of insane, right? Right, like that is wild. That's, you don't have to give up General Grievous' Whirlwind, you don't have to give up Brutal Enforcer, like I just think, and so I think, yes, on the whole, overclock is probably, on the average turn, overclock will look more powerful, because the first 2 turns of the game, Slice Comms is going to be tough to hit with, right?
Yeah.
Whereas overclock in the first 2 turns of the game is probably going to be quite effective. If you want to make the argument that overclock is a better upgrade in turn 1, turn 2, I'll give you that 100%. But I think when we're talking about late game situations where Jedi timing is critical to lists with force push actually winning the game, going back to my Dark Trooper example that I lost Crucible with, if you can't reliably depend on your force push timing happening when you need it to, you're gonna lose the game probably. And part of the reason that force push is 40 points is because you can do that, right?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
And so, I don't want to say that force push and Jedi are the only thing that this card targets, but they have like the biggest bullseye on their head for what this card does by a mile, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I kind of feel like, we already made force push 40 points. like I'm not sure we need an 8-point upgrade that also kneecaps these units that are already taking hits for the perceived power level of those units. I'm not sure force push should be 40 points, to be honest with you. I think that upgrade maybe should be in the 25-point range now. That's a different conversation possibly, but I think
it's less valuable now. I agree with that.
I think people are too soaked up in the feels bad of getting force pushed to, like, oh man, I got force pushed and it really hurt, and so it shouldn't be in the game, and so we got to price it out of the game sort of situation.
The most iconic force thing that Jedi do in Star Wars shouldn't be in the game. Okay.
I'm not saying I agree with that take. I to be very clear, I think it was good when every Jedi could take force push, because every Jedi felt like a Jedi, but we've had that conversation.
When you're learning the game and you're up against a experienced player who just abuses the crap out of you with force push, then, like, I had this experience when I was first learning. Like, it felt like it was cheating and that I was playing a different game. But and only by sticking with it and sort of beating your head against the wall and losing enough of those games do you start to get a feel for the fact that there are ways to deal with that situation.
Just wait until you are teaching new players how to play the game and you're kicking their Jedi who doesn't have force push is token back after they dived at the top of the next turn with an 8-point slice comms. Well,
I think Brian will be doing that quite a bit.
Yeah.
It seems like a good way to make new players cry.
Right? It seems I dare say kind of toxic.
I am strongly in agreement with what Mike said specifically about how focus pieces, I think, over the course of 2.6 have been a little bit harder and harder to play. In the way that they've changed, like withdraw, the way that they've changed standbys, the way that they've changed a lot of those things. I still think focus units can still be very good, and we've clearly seen that, right? They're just harder to make good, and this is just another option or another thing to that makes that even harder. Now with the and it's possible that with the amount of area terrain on tables and with the line of sight blocking things that we can do, like maybe this can be avoided well enough. But I would love to see just a couple of changes. Either one, make it non-op, non-commander. That would be successful, I think. Or make it at the start of your activation. The fact that it can be a range 4, pick up your token, is a little wild to me. So, because you can speed 2,
Yeah.
range 2, pick up. So.
Yep, and if you spend the 8 points on the steady upgrade, you can take a shot along the way and dole out some extra suppression. So it's very strong.
You can, to be clear, you can also take all of your other free actions while doing that.
Exactly, and I think that what the moral of this conversation is that we're having this discussion about which one of these upgrades is more busted as hell on this brand new unit that just came out, and unlike the Inquisitors, it's on a chassis that is not going to be like doling out 1 billion damage, but it is plenty good and is offering plenty to your list because of all the tools have been given. So these are going to be a common sight. And I just want to briefly point out that Brian, had some objections to the idea that unstable astromech was limiting the game, but he was full force in support of the fact that slice comms having a very similar effect is a problem, because that one makes Op Luke a little bit more dangerous to play. And again, this is why we are standing in opposition of everything that you represent. Brian,
I want to get in here because you made an Inquisitor comparison here. I do just want to say that if you take the lethal upgrade and the charge electrostaff on this guy, they are better than Inquisitors in melee by a decent margin. and they're like 25 points cheaper after upgrades.
Speaking of lightsabers that are somewhat disappointing, Mike, you've had at least a couple experiences with the generic Jedi, and I just wanted to give you a chance to see, did you want to add an addendum onto your thesis/treatise from last week's episode?
I have played 5 games with and against the new Jedi. Mm-hmm. I've played a couple configurations. I've seen a couple different configurations played against me. It went about as how I expected it to go. I think, you're going to see a lot of like 2 Pierce 1, 3 Pierce 1. The Guardian double saber is definitely, the melee build that allows you to do damage. If there is a, I don't know, I might feel differently about this if you could take like 2 or 3 Jedi Guardians, and like that might be okay, from like we're taking like, but you can't. That's like not a thing you can do because you only can have 1 Guardian.
Unlike the awesome droid doctrine, which is two pips, the most functional Republic doctrine is 1 pipped.
It is 1 pipped, and I'm not. I mean, I get why they did that. I'm not really upset about that. I just like the other doctrines felt pretty lackluster, I guess. The direct clone one is sort of interesting, it's. But in that, like, you like I can hand an order to Bad Batch or something, which is cute. But like I'm not sure that it's good, jury's out on that, I guess. If there is more, the fact that you're really just, I don't know. I think maybe there's something there with like the prepared positions, Jedi with the General of the Republic, and then you take like a comms tech and a captain on like a like a prepared position like marksman squad, and like
the defeat in your voice is palpable.
I just like you're like, in order to do the cool thing, you're just like throwing so many things that are kind of bad at the thing that, and maybe it's good enough that maybe that combination is good enough that it will be a thing, but it seems like it just probably gets ripped apart by anything that's range 4, and I don't know. Yeah.
Brian, I'm curious, just because you weren't on last week's episode, we haven't heard your thoughts on it. Where do you come down on the Jedi customizable, just like at large?
So I think there's ways to use them. I'm thankful that they are not stronger than the Jedi we already have. I was a little bit worried about that, because
that one's easy to say.
What was that?
That one is very clear.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I was, go ahead, continue.
Because I was worried that if these customizables are so good, then we see less Yodas and we see less Ahsokas and we see less Anakins, and that worried me. And so I'm glad that is not the case. I do think that having access to cheap support Jedi is going to be, I think that there's ways to use them. I think cheap access to some force barriers could be very powerful in clone gun lines. I think I think that they're going to be, I think they could be good in certain local metas, right? And I think they're going to be great for this.
That was a very nice way of putting it, Brian.
That's the Indiana politeness that's coming out right there. That is boy, that is such a coded statement. A master of euphemisms, Brian Baer. I can add that to your list of accolades. It might be good in some local metas. Brian Baer.
So I haven't been able to play any of them and put them on the table, right? So I'm curious about the high velocity saber. I know it's not great. I know that the 4 black, 4 white is not exciting, but I'm interested to try that out and to see what it can do, because I think that there's it could be powerful against very specific lists, right? And so I think that I'm really excited for the opportunities that it allows in, what's it called? What's the new scenario? What's it called? I can't remember.
Tours of Duty.
Tours of Duty. I think that'll be great for that. And so I don't necessarily think that I agree with you from a competitive standpoint. These aren't going to be the best things in the world in our current mindset. I think there's room for exploration. I'm not ready to write them off yet, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely.
You just did.
Sure. Yeah.
It's great for Tours of Duty. Brian Baer.
I mean, I think our arguments mostly align here. I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so too. I think maybe mine is a little bit more hyperbolic, but I think overall, I think we definitely we agree that there's some things that potentially could be there, but it definitely requires a lot of pieces fitting together in a very specific way, I think, for that to properly work. I think this conversation would just be so different if like all of the lightsabers had charge on them. I don't know.
I agree 100%.
I would like
that still is the roughest part.
I think that it makes things very difficult, but I also think that maybe these units are specifically designed to be more support units. Or I think Well, I mean, it also opens the door for
I think the commander is.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
the commander is more designed to be a support unit. Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, but it's a good. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's play with Yodas too, Pip, be able to get that relentless off and get them buried and things like that. I don't know. I need to play around with it. I haven't like delved like I have on some of these others. I really, yeah.
Well, is that because you find them uninteresting, Brian?
Yeah, was there something that didn't attract you to the idea of delving into it, Mr. Baer?
Whoops. My screen
You got him cornered.
I gotta run away. What fortuitous timing that my phone fell down right at that moment. That's hilarious.
Spiders always scatter when you shine a light on them.
You're right. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, there's nothing super spicy about them. I think I can, if someone said, Brian, I want you to make me a competitive list with one, I think I could probably do it.
I don't think it's impossible. But
ringing endorsement yet again.
I think it's one of those things where they don't seem to have a place, I guess. And you can definitely pigeonhole them in a way that you can pigeonhole Hondo, like or whatever into a list, and I think that's fine.
I will be like I'm going to be slightly more optimistic than to say it doesn't look like they have a place, because I do think that from a list building perspective, the access to I'm double checking what all the points are at the end of the day, but the access to a operative that has Guardian double bladed, of course, and then the peacekeeping mission, like that's 103 for a pretty hefty unit from a raw dice perspective, right? I mean, so like it has deflect. It's going to be able to live in melee for a while. On the way in, it's going to have a probably 5 hits pierce 2 on the way in. And it's true that wouldn't have force push, but it would have a command card that would give it a standby token that will at least offset your opponent's decision making to a certain extent on the next turn. And so for 103, that seems like it's a pretty good deal to me.
So yeah, I'm with you on that. But the other thing is like, so we're looking at it from one standpoint, right? From a competitive standpoint. Whereas these units are going to be great for hobby. They're going to be great for tours of duty. They're going to be like, I come from a game. So my first love was HeroScape, right? There's a lot of HeroScape units that were trash. Like you just could never play them in a competitive environment. You couldn't. They just weren't going to win you a game. But in a casual setting at home, they look cool and they're fun. And yeah, I'm going to play these units because they're cool and fun. And so I think we are looking at it at these units from one angle, and it's okay that there are going to be units in Star Wars Legion that aren't always going to be hyper viably competitive, right? Competitively viable. I think that's all right. I think it's okay that we're going to have a wide variety of units.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm not sure that is a statement that we should be making about Jedi, I guess. Like if you say that about Rebel veterans, I think that's fine. But I think if you're talking about like these premier cool looking dudes that go on the table with lightsabers that are supposed to be like the Republic identity, I'm not sure that argument flies.
Fair, but are we going to get to the other?
Maybe we're just being spoiled because CIS can, they can experience a wide variety of list archetypes, and even like they can field their new customizable in a wide variety of ways. And I think this is also true of the Rebel customizable, is that there's a lot of different ways to run it and still be competitive. And I think that it's a given that okay, a couple of these doctrines were probably not going to like really be all that viable for a tournament or whatever, but this one to me it does feel like very, if you want to be competitive, it feels like there's maybe two ways to do it. And I think that at least for me, it's just sort of seeing what's on the other side and feeling like I wish that I had the degree of choice that especially Rebels and CIS have. I think that the Jedi customizables are in sort of a similar boat to Empire, just in the sense of only having a couple of ways to actually really customize it if you're trying to win actively.
I think that's a good point. But we also, so there's part of it is that maybe we don't have the full picture. Like we could be getting new force powers coming out in November that would.
That's very fair.
If these guys were significantly better, then maybe we'd have problems with that whole bunch of cheap Jedi running around with these cool new force powers, or maybe they may have specific faction identity cool things that change. I have no idea, but I think it's okay that they aimed a little bit on the low end for Jedi coming out. Jedi I think are a lot harder to balance than a regular unit. And so
I think that's fair.
Aiming low and not having these guys come out and just eliminate Yoda, Anakin, and Ahsoka ever being played, I think it's okay. I think we start off where we're at and then we can build up. And I don't have a problem with it. Very
reasonable. Yeah.
God, how dare you be reasonable?
Yeah, it's sort of disappointing because that's really not what drives content. We just need a little bit more conflict around here. So I'd just appreciate if you tried a little bit harder next time.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Brief take, if you could, on Rebel customizables, because you have been spending some time with that, right?
Yes, they're hot.
Ryan, yeah.
Rebels are hot. I've seen them run in a lot of different ways. Like you said, there's a lot of good variety, and they can be run effectively in a lot of different ways. I've seen a lot of people really enjoy the big guns. I personally, I'm all about the double pistols, man. Double pistols and a grenade, and you just run those little guys around however you want. Those double pistol grenades are just awesome. So much fun. Do cool stuff. And that grenade should probably be more expensive.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah, the old double pistols that makes you explode a grenade in a guy's face. Despite Isaac's like excellent argument to why that can happen, it still bothers me.
No, listen. So Evan, what you do is if you're fighting a guy, right? You got your hand-to-hand combat, you're punching them, and you just roll the grenade behind them, and you use their body, and it just blows you, and it blows them up, and you're just using their shield. Haven't you seen movies? It works all the time. You use someone else to shield an explosion, and it doesn't matter how big the explosion is, it doesn't hurt you.
That's true. That's exactly as true as the fact that, when you conk somebody on the head really hard, they just like go to sleep for a while. And then, they'll get out of it later on. Yeah. But it's fair. You're using real life physics as an argument for this. And there's nothing I can say about that. I will briefly give Andor Season 2, Episode 3 a lot of credit for being very accurate in terms of what happens when you hit somebody on the head really hard.
Head injury. Yeah, that was really good.
So, yeah, that was, boy, man, that show's so good. Anyway, got off track. Thank you for that. Listen, I am super happy that Rebels and CIS are going to have all these tools, and then Empire maybe a couple less. But they also have access to a super awesome upgrade, so like they're going to see plenty of play. And then, it is very fair that of all four of those, the Jedi customizable has the most growth potential because of their force slot. There's unlikely going to be, if they come out with programming slots that are basically like slottable in to the customs, in the future, then I'm going to be upset. But unless that happens, it's the force slot that can actually, grow as the game matures. And so I think that will give more and more options, especially to the consular and the force adept training in particular, that allows you to tap instead of expending. So yeah, there's room to grow. Mike, we're nearing the end of a fairly long podcast, but let's at least do a quick visit to our droid friend C3LP. That is Clanker content creation for lazy podcasters. Have you turned on memory?
Like I have. We have successfully turned on memory.
All right. So now C3LP is going to remember how we treat it, which means that we need to be on our best behavior going forward, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
No slurs.
Okay,
we'll see.
The section is named Clanker content creation, so some may say that it starts with a slur, but let's just push past that part.
All right. So today we've got ARC troopers.
Wait, we've done this. We've done this one before.
Yeah, you already did. You did.
Yeah. It was your very first. That was the last episode that Brian was on.
It was the very first.
Damn it, C3.
All right. That was before I turned memory on.
And do another one.
Yeah, okay. Have we done Dewback Riders yet?
No.
Okay, then we're going with.
What does it say about
Dewback Riders? The Dewback Rider is a miniature with one Imperial Sand Trooper rider. I don't know how you ride a Sand Trooper, but that's the thing that.
It's actually Babu Frick on top of a Sand Trooper on top of a Dewback. I would pay $300 for that miniature, just letting you know. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, the cost of a Dewback is approximately 95 points. Varies with the weapon, which I don't. Is that true? Is it about 95 points with the weapon? I think it's much less than that, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's using the original cost,
yeah,
right?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's got all the weapon, T-21 blaster, flamethrower, or the CR-24 rotary blaster. I think that's an RTC is what it means there, right? It's got the wounds right, the courage right. The speed is 1, parentheses, slow but steady. I'm not sure that's how I would define Dewbacks, but
more like fast and crazy.
It does talk about that they have a reposition and can pivot for free after moving. Its description is it's basically the Empire's cavalry monster. Slow to start, but devastating once it gets in close. It's the close-range bruiser using its relentless ability to move and immediately attack. Durable distraction that draws fire away from your squishier troopers, and great for flanking and area denial, especially with a flamethrower build. I think all of those things are true.
This is one where I'm heavily feeling the TFT blog influence on what C3LP is writing. Just gonna say. Yeah, I mean that was only inaccurate in fairly mundane ways. There's C3LP has definitely been more wrong in the past, so I give it mostly decent marks for that one.
There is an additional. It says its claws and teeth attack is only 3 red dice. Which is not correct. Although sometimes it can feel that way.
That's true. Sometimes it feels like a fake 6-die attack for sure. I mean, hey, Dewbacks.
Yet again, another attack profile that is generally better than a lightsaber.
There we go again.
Particularly with Bram.
Yeah.
Brian, what do you got on Dewbacks?
I love Dewbacks. They're still great. They're still really, really good. I think they're a needed Empire unit, right? We're starting to just. We're just starting to see eWebs. We're starting to see eWebs have a lot more play. Whereas before, like when I first started playing 2.6, it felt like there really was no other support option that Empire could play in a competitive environment.
Yeah.
But we are starting to see the game develop to be a little bit more. Players are slowing down their movement a little bit and being a lot more intentional with their range shots. People are positioning better to get onto POIs, which opens up more range shots. And so we are seeing a little bit Legion in general kind of swing a little bit more toward gun lines. And as a result, dewbacks are not feeling as necessary as they did before.
Yeah. I mean, they've been solid ever since 2.6 came around, and they've stayed that way. And you're right. There's now with E-Webs and speeder bikes getting a little bit of a boost recently. There's some variety when there initially was none. And then now that even though we have lost IRG, now that Riot Control Squad is at least more playable, although suspiciously we still see very, very little of it out there in the real world, funny enough. It's probably a whole other podcast topic. But there was a long time where it truly was the only melee, non-unique melee option that Empire had. And so obviously it was showing up quite a bit there. But it's versatile. Like, you can make arguments for all three of the weapons, in my opinion. And, it's just a solid unit, and it makes it extra sad that it is very difficult to find, just like the X-34. So will benefit a lot once it actually gets the reprint. Mike, you got anything else on dewbacks?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah,
I do have something about UEBs though. I was talking to Austin at Crucible. I'm bringing this up because you brought it up, Brian. One of the things that I think that we've discussed at length is like walking your E-Webs onto the board instead of prepared positions in them. Particularly if you're like up against Austin and I were having this conversation in the reference frame of me having triple commandos. And triple commandos still kind of eat an E-Web for breakfast, even if it's, if it's on the board already, it is pretty easy. Whereas if you just walk your E-Web onto the board instead, you can potentially mitigate that, right? So I think that there's some scenarios where, specifically with E-Webs, and that goes for any prepared position unit, really. If you're under threat of, like, you're probably going to lose it because you prepared position it, just keep it off the board and walk it in. That's the thing you can do.
Or position it in a better spot so it's not going to get shot.
Yeah. So sometimes that position is not there.
Pretty tough against an infiltrating clone commando, especially when the dodge token is literally not going to be helpful to you in that exact situation.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought
that makes sense. I like how Brian was like squeezing that in. Is like maybe Austin should just be better at the game and not get his E-Web shot if he was so worried about it.
Oh
God, you're just chock full of it today. You're not disappointing. This is really going to drive the content. So you turned things around. Good job there, Brian.
We're going to a tournament in November, right? Again. Aren't we doing that?
Oh yeah, we should mention that really quickly. First of all, I want to quickly mention that there is going to be a tournament over in Portland at the end of October called CritCon, and they have a lot of prize support. It's going to be on the weekend of the 25th of October, if there's anybody in the area that wants to go there. So I did want to shout that out. But then randomly, this thing happened on the Discord. We have a VIP room, is what I've now called it, on our Discord, where the people in the higher tiers are in there, and then of course all of the TFT staff. And then just for the sake of variety, we also have Isaiah and Caitlin Wallace, and then in addition, enemy of the podcast, Brian Baer is in this room, and one of the lone member of our Palpatier, Grant Saunier, who I believe lives in Oklahoma, he was shouting out, I forget who got it started, but some kind of chain reaction happened where 1 billion people from all over the country signed up for the Oklahoma Open. That's going to take place in the middle of November.
In the middle of nowhere, also.
What
And
are you talking about?
Yeah, I was quick to
Norman, Oklahoma.
I was quick to try to make Yeah, I was quickly trying to make enemies in the Legion Discord by referring to it as a tournament in flyover country that I decided to sign up for. But Brian, it was you and Isaiah and Caitlin. You had all signed up for it because all of you actually have an Oklahoma connection. Having been originally been from there, and then I was baited into joining in. So I am going to be headed there now to join in the quote unquote fun of being in a tournament with Brian Baer. And then also you were able to convince Trent Hale to sign up.
Yeah.
And then that's on top of the very large list of very good players that were already going to be playing in that who are more local. So, and then on top of all that, David's going to be there streaming. So it's going to be a hell of a time. It's going to be some good stuff.
It was pretty hilarious. I was a little bit bummed because there's been a lot of really great tournaments locally, right? One of the guys who runs all our tournaments here in Indiana, Matt Evans, he ran a tournament down in Bourbon City for the Bourbon City Brawl, and that was the same weekend as the Michigan GT, and that was the same weekend as LVO. And there's just been a lot of really cool tournaments around the area locally. There's a big one coming up on the north side of Indy that I can't get to. The north side guys with Trent's group, the 317th are running. Ty Captain Nita is the one that's TOing that one. And I'm not able to get to any of those. And so I looked at my schedule and I was like, man, I can't get to any of these like cool tournaments. I'm really bummed out. And I was like, when's my next free Saturday that I can actually do something? And I was like, all right, November 15th. What's coming up on November 15th? And I was just like scrolling through and I was like, what? There's one in Oklahoma. Let's see here. I can't ask off a day, but if I drive after work, I can get there by midnight and I can play all day Saturday and Sunday and then drive back from after Sunday and get home at midnight and work on Monday. Yeah, let's do that.
You're really going to be doing all that?
Yeah, I really am.
Oh my God.
And I said, hey guys, I said it in my local Discord. I was like, guys, I just want you to know I'm going to be a crazy man and this is what I'm doing. Anyone who wants to join me can. And I was trying to convince Adam Slaber so that we could get another podcast, the Indy Garrison Talks, to come out, but he couldn't do it. But Trent's like, I think I could do that. You driving? I was like, yeah, I'm driving. He's like, sweet. And I was like, just so you know, Trent, it's going to be a slog. And he's like, yeah, I'm up for it. I was like, yes, yes. And so
he's young. He can handle it.
Yeah, I know. Right. And then I looked as I signed up, and I was like, whoa, Isaiah's going? That's awesome. I had no idea Isaiah and Caitlin were going. I was like, that's cool. I really wanted to play Colton. Colton's wins a lot of tournaments down there. I know Thomas does really well. Reagan's going to be there. And so I was interested in playing all these guys. And so I wanted to show up, and now it's become a cool thing. Travis Posey, who is Splash Cola in the Discord, he came out to our very first Indy Open, drove all the way up from Oklahoma and joined, and it was awesome. And so he was a huge part of me being like, yeah, I'm definitely doing this. Travis came to ours, we're going to theirs. We're going to start this pen pal thing going where we can go to each other's tournaments.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm excited to join, and maybe I can just like help ward off a little bit of your influence, just for the good of the community. That's going to be my personal mission for sure. But yeah, very much looking forward to it, and it'll sort of be what's also interesting is that it'll be the same day as Mini Extravaganza, so we're going to be getting out of that tournament and finding out like all the news that we got. So that will be kind of a wild time, and it'll be a weird meta potentially if they don't do the points changes yet, but we will have the new customs and Grievous. That'll be a weird meta indeed. So looking forward to it. All right. I think that's all we got. We appreciate everybody sticking around for a long episode. But Mike, how do we finally land this plane?
Yeah, this has been the Notorious Scoundrels, Season 4, Episode 33. I'm Mike.
I'm Evan.
And I am enemy of the podcast, Brian Baer.
Stay fresh cheese bags. Except for you, Brian. You don't get stuff right.
Yeah, you don't stay fresh. Stay rotten, Brian Baer. It's what you're best at.